Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Apostate or Apostate Aladdin. Before you like or dislike this video based on where you think it is going, I would urge you to watch the whole thing. It shouldn't be that long. So lately I noticed that my channel has been growing, and while I'm not complaining about that, don't get me wrong, I would much rather have some sort of control over the rhetoric going on in the comments underneath my videos. Because the point of this channel isn't to garner as much support as possible, it's to garner the right kind of support. So I appreciate the diversity that comes with a larger audience. There's a lot of types of audiences that I hadn't reached before, and a bigger reach is good. And it encourages a lot of different discussions to pop up in the comments, and I'm more than happy to see that. After all, I don't want an echo chamber, and that means that I have some things to say to ex-Muslims and never Muslims who are in my comments, so those videos are coming at some point as well. So to get to the point, dear Muslims, what I want to say to you is a lot, but let me start with saying thank you to those among you who have been decent so far. You'd be surprised how many comments I get from Muslims who are either ignoring the back and forth drama going on between the two groups and just focusing on the point that I'm making, or actually commending me for my tone or approach, especially when I'm dealing with other Muslims. That doesn't mean that I just appreciate the flattering comments. If anything, I don't really know what to say to them. But I am happy to hear that a lot of people have given my videos a chance and they see where I'm coming from. Whether they agree or not is not the point here. The point is that they've heard my opinion and they've thought it through, and that's what matters. And there's a lot of Muslims who've reached out to me saying, I used to hate you, but I watched your content and now I realized that the idea I used to have of you is not exactly how you are. And I appreciate that. Many of them, after hearing my point, they either end up expressing that they've had the same doubts, and they've reached the same conclusions or no conclusion at the moment, or they've adopted a more progressive stance as a result of coming across, me pointing out what is actually in a lot of interpretations of Islam. And that's a happy outcome for me. I don't necessarily want anyone who watches my video to apostatize. That's not the end goal of the channel. Which brings me to this point. If you feel offended by my videos, that is fine. I don't expect you to, take it and like it. You can very easily just ignore my videos. You can block my channel altogether, or whatever platform you come across. You can just select not interested, and usually the algorithm won't feed you this kind of video anymore. There's so many things you can do aside from watch and get offended. And I understand that you may feel an obligation, if not a motivation, to defend your religion in a sense. Well, just know that I am not interested in engaging in back and forths about proving or disproving Islam. So your efforts are going to be kind of misplaced and pointless. So take it somewhere else. And if you come across one of my videos where I'm talking about a topic, like for example, the story of Prophet Ibrahim, and I make jokes about that would be considered blasphemous or disrespectful to the religion and so on, don't consider that to be me displaying a second personality, for example. The way that I talk to Muslims on my live streams is very different than the way that I would talk to, say, a dawah person, which is different from how I would critique Islam or satirize it or talk about it when I'm making one of those videos. And that's on purpose. It's not because I'm displaying multiple personalities. It's just that the approaches are appropriate. For example, when I am talking to a Muslim, usually I'm trying to understand why they believe and ask them questions about that. And of course, they can ask me some back. The point isn't to argue with them what Islam really says or doesn't say. They can have an interpretation that I disagree with, and I can simply tell them I don't think that is accurate, but it is what it is. The point is, I don't have to get into an argument with them, and as long as they're being civil with me, I don't have to throw in their face a lot of satire about their religion. I am simply trying to see eye to eye with them, at least momentarily, till I understand where they're coming from. And if it's a da'wah person, I will absolutely grill them a little harder because they're promoting a religion, so they're promoting all parts of it. So whether they omit or lie about certain parts, or they're just simply unaware of them, they should still be brought to light, and the da'wah people should be questioned about them. That is fair game. I still try to make my approach civil, but if they start pushing the conversation the wrong way, I have no problem pushing back while still trying to maintain the baseline of civility. And that's why there's a lot of people who I'd rather just not engage with at all to begin with. And that brings me to the downside of my recent growth of this channel. There's a lot of Muslims who follow ex-Muslim content creators like the people who I speak to or myself, and they follow them just to insult them all the time and insult everyone in the comments and keep just spamming a bunch of low effort, low quality comments. And if that's how you want to spend your time, you do you. I mean, I'm sure you don't understand why I spend some time making these videos. So to each their own, just, it doesn't have to be in my comments. So please keep that out of my comments section. There's a lot of entitlement that comes with it too. I mean, they come with such an attitude and then they expect me to engage in a conversation or even acknowledge them or respect their beliefs and so on and so forth. And I just want to crush that sense of entitlement once and for all. I want to remind all Muslims watching that you are in my audience and I welcome you, if you play nice, but you're not my primary audience. And neither are the other groups, which I want to address later, of Christians, Hindus, never Muslims, atheists, ex-Muslims. All these groups are not, I'm not focusing on one of them or the other. I just don't want blind support. And I'll talk about that later. But the point is, where the hell was I going with this? Yeah, the point is, the entitlement. We don't need to get a pass to talk about Islam in any way. So I don't have to debate every person, which there are a lot of, every person who wants to insult me to begin with and then expect some of my time to respond to their repeated questions, which I've already either addressed in my videos or they're coming up. That's why you need to follow my channel. I cannot go down to an individual level and keep answering every Muslim nice or not, but especially not when they start by calling me names. Like, I simply don't know where this entitlement comes from. Similarly, there's a lot of drama going on between content creators, be it dawah people or ex-Muslim, or if you want to call it critiques of Islam, whatever category they fall into. I want nothing to do with that. So if you come to my comments and ask me about this content creator or another, just please know it's not relevant to me. This channel isn't set up to disprove Islam because, as I've mentioned a lot of times before, there is nothing to prove to begin with. It has not been proven for us to take a defensive position and disprove it, or more like an offensive position, whatever it may be. So I don't need to get in arguments about the validity of Islam at all. I get a chance to express my thoughts, and if there were enough people already doing that or had the liberty to do that without repercussions, I wouldn't feel the need to do this at all. I would just find my thoughts echoed in someone else's words and I would just be happy that they're out there. But unfortunately, that is not the case, hence the need for a channel like this and many others like it. And the point isn't primarily to build bridges either, though that is a goal of mine, bridges between Muslims and ex-Muslims. But at the end of the day, one of us is sticking to a religion that demonizes the other. So as much as I could try to build bridges, the fundamental issue still remains. And we shouldn't be expected to always be the adults in those types of conversations. So I'm doing my best in moderating my space. But at the end of the day, that is not the primary goal. I would much rather tend to believers who are questioning or ex-Muslims who are being abused by this religion or by themselves or by the people around them into just being in a very negative headspace of self-doubt, the repeated gaslighting by religion and its members affecting their mental health, or simply people who want to talk about Islam without having to face consequences. I'm trying to do that on their behalf. And it's opening discussions to get Muslims to think about our point of view so that we can hopefully coexist better. But if it starts to become a theme that a lot of my comments are extremely negative, be it from Muslims or ex-Muslims or never Muslims, I reserve the right to clean up some of this mess in the comments section. I don't like censorship, and I absolutely don't mind comments that prove me wrong in a sense or point out a mistake that I made. If anything, I would like to pin post those and admit to my mistake if that happens. I never pose to be a scholar or anything. Anything I talk about, I have looked into deeply, and I do cite the scholars that people trust. But everybody makes mistakes, even the scholars that, the defense is usually that they're fallible, so people make mistakes, so do I. So I have no problem owning up to it. So I never crush that kind of commenter, as this allegation would say. This is actually a perfect example of a kind of commenter that I would block, just coming in with anti-Semitism and then bringing politics into it, which, as I've mentioned so many times before, I do not want to get involved in. And I definitely don't say that I support Israel blindly. I just don't want to get involved in that mess. And all I say is that I do not support anyone kicking people out of their homes and their land. And the idea that a land is a promised holy land is a stupid idea. So if you are a Jewish person who believes that, that's just a harmful, stupid belief to have. So I hope that clears the air enough. And I hope that there's more of the constructive kind of interaction than a destructive one. Because like I said, I reserve the right at any time to just put aside all these distracting comments and videos and not even talk to Muslims for a while, because the primary point of this channel is to talk about Islam, not necessarily talk to Muslims or defend myself against Muslims all the time. Our percentage as ex-Muslims is a lot smaller than the percentage of Muslims out there or the percentage of vocal Muslims out there. So it's always going to be the case that we're constantly distracted by these side talks and side arguments. And if you're really unhappy about your comments disappearing, just remember at the end of the day, YouTube filters out a lot of these words because it recognizes that not much good comes out of a comment that starts in a certain tone or with a few keywords together. And I would like to remind Muslims who are new to my channel that the point of this channel isn't Muslim hate either. But that doesn't excuse a lot of Muslims from thinking and acting the way they are. There's a lot of very, very common problems among believers, be it Muslims or Christians or otherwise, but I'm focusing on the community that I know, the community that I in many ways care about. You will hear it in my voice sometimes. It's coming out of frustration, not hate. If I was able to hate all Muslims, I would be a lot less frustrated, but I just simply can't do that, and I don't think it's the right thing to do. But I will call out a lot of prevalent bad beliefs, and if you find yourself justifying something very immoral or suspicious, that is not my fault that you're put in that position. I'm just bringing awareness to it. And that doesn't mean that I think all Muslims are bad people or all Muslims have harmful beliefs because they intend to. I think religion plays a huge factor in what you end up believing and what you process. And that's why I try to deconstruct people's faith by asking them to tell me more about it. I'm just trying to get you to think critically and think for yourself. And if you have any thoughts about this video, I urge you before you like or dislike to put a comment down below, just simply telling me what's on your mind, because that is a lot more constructive than simply leaving a vote. So with that being said, as said earlier, please think critically and think for yourself.